This video shows the construction of the new Modelux Butters Brothers crane, Derrick crane. Butters Brothers in Glasgow, quite an iconic and beautiful crane. This model's been around in its first form for about 10 years, but this is a completely reworked, revamped version. Here we see that the boom and mast is adjustable to give reach. The whole assembly sliding along chassis rails on the top of the cab. And so we've got pivot points here and here. This doesn't come with the wheels, which obviously go on a track, because it's essentially, you can strip down an old wagon and fit this yourself. This is designed that this width is perfect for, in this case, an N gauge. Obviously if it's an OO gauge wagon. Although this could be permanently fixed into position. The reason it doesn't come with this is that there are plenty of these old wagons around that you can just strip the cargo element off and attach to the deck. It looks a very, very complex and involved model to produce. It's actually relatively simple. With this model, this is the base kit that every kit comes with, but there are add-ons for things like the ladder, access ladder, and there's another ladder that goes to the top of the cab, and there's another access system on top of the ballast. There's some rigging, and there's also a hook and cables and various other elements, but they're all designed as add-ons because it would be far too complicated to offer everything and try and demonstrate how it works. So the idea is that you build this first of all, and then you can buy, when you're pleased with it, you can buy other elements. These also look great in an array of 3 or more, really purposeful in a dockside or any industrial setting. The kit comes flat pack and now with no instructions, and this is going to be common to most new Modelux products. The instructions were always the weak part of Modelux kits, and the intention is that these videos provide a more substantive way of demonstrating construction. So what they do come with is a parts list, and so when I refer to a part, you can look at the parts list this comes with and see what I'm talking about. So the yellow elements on the crane, get all the parts out, are made from 300 GSM FlexCore card, which has been treated to give it stability and weathering element and allow extremely fine laser cutting. Now these now are on nibbed sheets, so this makes construction a lot easier. So you see that's the boom and mast and jib element, and you've got little etched arrows on here which point to where each element is located, so you can see that prior to construction. And the idea is you clip away the part that you're building and clip each part sequentially, and that makes construction logical rather than just a bag of parts and not knowing where it goes. So first of all, excuse me, we're going to build the mast, jib and boom here, so that they can be built completely separately and put to one side. We're then going to build the cab and then the ballast system and the corresponding chassis rail system, and you'll see that all those elements can be built independently and then fitted together at the end, and it's actually quite easy. So first of all, we've got here, that's the mast and this is the jib and boom here. So we're going to start with this element. These parts clip away, and you see these little triangles show where the holding nib is, and you simply clip. Don't drag the blade because it can damage the material, you'll hear the clip as it goes through, so the click. Now you've got to open the weathered side and the plain side. It's often better to have the side where you see surface patination on the outside. These two elements are obviously exactly the same, and you'll see in here little slots to locate these elements. So first of all, we can see that this side here has this long structural element. Now you need PVA glue. No other glue is really suitable. And you'll see on here you've got tabs which correspond with the slots. Run a line of PVA. You can be reasonably liberal with it. Okay, so next we've got this one. You can't really go wrong with these because it's been designed so that these elements will only fit in the correct position, so you can't get them mixed up. The tabs won't align with the slots if you get it wrong. In addition, there's no real correct sequence to making this, so you don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing here. It's obviously more difficult for me to do this than it will be for you, because I've got to do this at some distance to keep, or attempt to keep, everything on camera without my head being in the way. So next will be under its head. Just to demonstrate a point, I've rushed this and I've said that this was going to be here, and I've just attempted to fit it and it won't fit, and that enforces what I previously said, that this can't go wrong, because these, even though that appears to be the correct length, the notches don't align with the holes, so now I can see it's this one. So it sort of won't allow you to make a mistake. So that means that this one goes then. Now, you can see in this case, these two elements are going to touch, so we might run a line of glue along that, but I'd wait until we make the top surface to it. Might be an idea to have two pairs of tweezers, because I'm struggling actually to pick this up whilst holding the part with the tweezers. Then we've got, there are three elements here, 1, 2, 3. This one can be fitted now, but these two are fitted when the other elevation's been put on. And again, where you see that will fix together, but we'll leave it until we put the other part on. And that will pop on like this. You'd think this was going to be really fiddly to do this, but it isn't. What you need to do is put a line of glue along every top edge. when all the, just double check all the tabs are in, and just gently push to ensure even contact. But it's more of a satisfying process than it is fiddly or frustrating. This is obviously the N-gauge crane. At the moment it is available in N and OO, and the OO is less fiddly to do. So that's done. We're now going to add those other two elements here and here, which I referenced. Ensure the edges are aligned, and now we need to fit this one to this edge. Make sure that the wide end of both of these are at this bottom end of that panel. Allow the glue to set before fitting the final panel. Which will go like that, matching the base. So I'm using absolutely loads of PVA. It'll dry clear, you won't really see it. Once that is put on, just adjust it. Make sure everything's aligned. I could do this a lot better, but it'd be quite slow filming. Right, final section of this bit that's going to attach to the underneath of the jib. Right, so this is the counterintuitive bit. You'd normally, instinct would say this is going to get narrower and towards the end. So you'd think that the wide end this would be here, sloping in. It's not, it's the other way around. This thinner end starts there and it builds up to here, because that element has got to splay to fit underneath the jib. So it's ever so easy to not concentrate and do this the wrong way around. So that way around. When positioning this, be careful not to block this hole. It's very close, it has to be, but don't block it. That hole is functional because it's going to provide part of the pivoting axle. So that's done the correct way around. Leave it for a few minutes for the PVA to set. Just be careful to get this panel right around it. Obviously it has to mirror the one underneath. It's another case where two sets of tweezers would actually be good to hold this while you locate the top face. Right, now you've got one final bit to this, which is this joining plate, because these are obviously in two separate sections, and see there is a correct way round. You've got the shape mirrors this. Attach this to the long part of the mast. Like that. And then again, this is where intuition can take over and you get this wrong. There's a correct way, there's an up and a down of this, and you'll see that there's a wider and narrower part, and it should mirror that. So just be careful before you join it. Use plenty of PVA here, because you're going to use the PVA as a tool to hide any gaps where the assemblies joined together in the same way as if something was welded. Hold it while it sets, but provide a degree of compression to ensure everything joins firmly. So at this stage you start to appreciate that this is gaining some considerable structural integrity. It's no longer flimsy card. It's actually very robust, and a lot of people dismiss the Model X kits before they've even started and go, this is cheap rubbish, it's really thin card and it's not made from plastic or MDF. And there's an obvious reason for that this is the correct scale thickness for the real thing. So put those two elements away to one side. The next stage is to do the cab and base assembly. Right, got 3 bags here. Broadly, these are collecting the like parts together. So we'll start with this, which is the cab and base. And find out where the opening hole is. Oh, this is more of a difficult job than I thought it would be. Oh, there we go. So in this, the grey parts, get these sorted out so that you can see what they are, because within this is the counterweight assembly. So put that to one side to begin with. So these are the counterweight elements. So you've got some thin grey card which is etched with detail. So you can see you've got the 2 sides with the IDEX logo on it. These 2 pieces of grey card which will sit behind the side panels. Then you've got front, back, top, bottom. So that's the counterweight which we'll come on to shortly. Then you've got the base. These are the only parts of the base. These which are cable guides which fit to the upper deck there. So that's the very top. And then we've got these elements which all fit together here, so we can see the separate things. So we'll start with the base. Very easy. Just let that go off for a second. Then we've got the base platform, checking where that Probably easier to do it upside down. That's the base done. We're going to the cab. We've got roof and the platform. Now I'm trying to remember if there's a correct way round for this, because the door is on one side without a door on the other, and should it go this side or that side? So we've got a little cutout there, and that shows, I'll just look at the finished thing. We can see that the door side needs to be where it's closest on that side to the cutout. So not that way around, but this way around. I've just remembered also, this was I don't know why there's two doors in this pack, should only be one. Fit the door first. It's a surprisingly difficult thing to fit in retrospect. Very easy, as you see, to fit it before, but when you've built the whole thing, virtually impossible. Now, there are two plastic windows here and here that you can see in the acrylic, the end. They just fit into these slots before you add the roof. So you put those in there, a bit of glue, and then fit the roof. I've just lost mine, and I'm not going to delay proceedings while I find them, but they are there, and that's how you do it. So the next stage, if you imagine those two plastic windows have just been put in, is the roof. Now again, there's a correct way around for this, and you want these holes and slots, which will take the cable guide at the end with the cutout. So that's the alignment of this, and you fit in this, broadly speaking, by eye to the top. There's no location slots. So if you've got these plastic windows in, you'd get the thing in perfect perpendicular, but I've not, so I'm just going to ensure that this isn't wonky and that the roof overhangs both edges of the wall, and that's partly to accommodate the pivoting, gimballing chassis element will go here. We'll come on to that in a minute, so put that to one side. This goes, so I'm going to refer to this. This element goes at the base of the mast. Let's just do that now. So it goes in between this. Straight between the two legs like that. Now the ballast tank, the counterweight, start with these blanking plates. The rest of these are thick card, these are thin, and these are going to fit to the top surface like this, and there's a lower one which is slightly shorter than the upper one. This whole this whole counterweight assembly can be sprayed. It's a good element that can be retro sprayed just to flatten it all down with grey primer. So leave that, if that happens, so you re-glue it, you've got using plenty of PVA is a good idea with this. Once you've put the PVA on, just run your finger along and that'll actually close the seam. So if you do spray it, the idea is that it looks more like a 3D printed element than this card. The reason this isn't 3D printed is we actually get far more definition and detail when it's made like this. You wouldn't get that element of crispness if this was made out of PLA. Allow the glue to set. We've got the front and back. They only fit one way. So you see which way round it aligns. It's rectangular, so it will only fit one way. And then finally the back. The glue squeezing out the edges is a desirable quality, because that means you're going to be closing the seam utilising the glue. I've really rushed this, but what you're going for is a finish where you can't see the join seams. So lay that to one side. Now you've got these two cable guides. Now the base kit, which is this, doesn't come with some elements, so it doesn't come with any rigging. So these will be just here, but won't accommodate any cable. So if you port the cable accessory, you'd have an axle here and some guide wheels, and that would guide the cable down from the mast down into here. And I'm sure that there are people that are resourceful enough to actually motorise this to a degree, and that's the intention of the kit, is just to leave that option open. It would obviously be a very small motor and some gearing, or I guess you could use muscle wire, and so the muscle wire would then give the effect of lifting an element, and even potentially providing automated pivoting of the crane. But that is not something we're gonna do. Now, this now has to fit onto here, and you see you've got this. This is the access for the ladder. Again, a ladder that is part of another kit, because we don't want to overcomplicate this. And you've got a tread plate here and a cutout at the bottom there, and so this cutout aligns with the tread plate. You don't want to glue the whole of this, because half of it is hanging in space. So now most of the elements are nearly there. The next stage is to add the chassis for the pivoting. So that's in this bag here. Again, trying to see where the seam is. It's far more difficult to open the bag than it is to assemble the parts that are inside it. Don't be over vigorous opening this bag like I've just been, because these parts are made out of 2mm acrylic, and acrylic, while it's obviously very hard and very robust, is also quite fragile, so easy to snap that. And these are going to fit onto here, but which way around? Right, so we need most of the rail sticking out the back. So you've got 4 things here. Broadly, they've been keyed, so they'll only fit the correct way around. But just do check, because you can force them into the slots incorrectly. Now, for the base, it might be a good idea to fit these now. You've got railings, which you see here, 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 and here. And these are on another nib sheet. These will only fit one way. There is actually a ladder provided here. It's a very basic ladder, will fit inside there. There is a specific ladder kit which provides a supplementary ladder here, and one to access the counterweight, and also that runs along the counterweight, but that is a separate accessory. So you've got longer railings, shorter railings. It's the shorter railings face down, and then you've got this band here, which is the thickness of the deck. That's at a horrible angle, just make sure it's straight. I'm going to rattle through this now. And it's important that this end is level with the end of the deck, otherwise you'll struggle with the end piece. Which is this. That wants to fit flush with the end of the railings. Yeah, this is the correct position for that piece that I've just dragged off the bottom. Spend more time on getting this level than I've just thrown it together. Essentially the main elements are now done, so it's a case of fitting together the whole thing. Right, the best sequence to do this mast needs to go on these brackets that run along this rail, and these fit to the outside of this cross here. And they align like that, in line with the cross. Leave that for a minute or two to set, because it's heavy, it will fall off. Right, finally we've just got to assemble the whole thing. Now that will fit in there. This fits against there and like that, and then we've got the ballast tank, counterweight. To allow all this to fit together, we've got some more acrylic brackets and axles, etc., all in this bag. Lots of tiny little circles in this, so don't lose those. The purpose of these is that we're going to have bits of ASA rod which go through wherever you've got a hole. So wherever you see a hole, some of this goes, and all you do is place it through the hole like that, and then clip it and glue it, and at the end, when all that's done, these fit over to form a detail, like a big bolt would be. So you can fit all these now. Best to use just some fine scissors to clip that into position. So you clip the rod off and then take the neck boot of rod and push it through each hole, sequentially glue and fit the small bolt on the end. So I'm not going to do that because it's not particularly laborious, but it's not necessary to show you that. Also included in this is a hook, but that's just in effect a sample one, because there is a more detailed hook kit available, so we can put that to one side. What we're interested in here are these plastic bearing elements. Remove the hook. So these are going to go on the end of this mast here and into these slots here to allow that to pivot. Sorry, that way around. So we've got I have to look at this to see which way around these go. You've got this with little arms that goes into these two slots there. Then these, without the little arms, fit on the inside of this solid triangular bit at the base. And you need to put them flush up to the edge, so that the hole is exposed. The distance isn't too crucial. The hole needs to be exposed and these need to be aligned. So it might be an idea when you're doing this is the ASA rod that forms the axle, is just to when you fit the second one, wait until this completely dries and then fit a whole length of this, put glue on here, and then you can ensure that these lower bearings will actually align. I only use my eye for that and I can see that they do. So wait for that to go off and then we should be in a position that we can fit the whole thing together. We're now going to fit the whole thing together. Now I made a mistake earlier on. I fitted these side railings, fit these at the end because we're going to put an axle through these hubs to fit the mast, and you can't get the mast in with these railings in the way. So I've just bent these out the way, but they will bend back. They're very pliable. But if you're building this and you're building it in sequence and you come to this bit and you've done what I've done, simply bend these out the way. They will bend back absolutely as they were. The other thing is that because I've got to get this done and fairly promptly of not allowing this glue to dry. So if the so the axle's now in, and then you've got these rings. There's extra ones of these included because they're easy to lose or distort, as I've just done there. Bit of PVA, and just slide that over the end of the axle. I'm not going to do the other one for this. Then you can bend, if you've already fitted these railings, they'll bend back into position. We're then going to fit the main mast. Again, cut a section of the ASA rod, and this will then slide through. Get closer to see this to align it. Now once that rod is through the mast base there, it slides backwards and forwards. You don't want you can't glue the outside of the axle because it will stop it moving, but if you put some PVA on the inboard side of it, then it'll stop that rod from coming out while still allowing the assembly to slide. Then you've got obviously this whole length of this thin ASA. It's one of these which is going to be used to join the mast to the jib. I'd need to get very close up to align this. It's simple to do, but I'm not going to do it on camera. So that will go all the way through to the other side. Then you'll have already fitted all these other bits of the 1mm rod. You're then using these small nuts on either side, and that is essentially the main part of the crane done. You'll see now that jib's being held in position. We just need to glue the counterweight on. Just hold that like that for 30 seconds or so to allow it to set. And that's the base crane done. As I said, there are accessories such as the rigging, a proper hook, although it does come with a hook if you want to try and fashion a system. The cables will run, because you've got this 1mm rod running all the way up, the cable can be rigged to go run over the top of all of that, down the mast, down to this cable guide. Assembly, there is a kit with the wheels and everything else for that, or you could fashion it yourself.